everyone, it's Zahava. Welcome back to the channel. We are doing the July reading wrap up today, and I hope you guys are going to have a lot of fun. Please remember to like the video if you like this kind of content and subscribe to the channel. I'll probably remind you to do this again at the end of the video. Actually, I had some very interesting stats. I looked up my stats and something like 83% of my viewers are not subscribed. So it's really, really important if you like this kind of content to please subscribe. And with that said, we're going to get right into the books. So let's start out with some reading stats. I actually had a much slower month in July, only having read about 10 books, where normally the amount of books I read can range anywhere between 12 and let's say 16 potentially, more like 12 and 14. But it was a slower month because July is summer, we're outside more. Eric had vacation for 2 weeks, you know, there's been some travel. So all in all, it's been a bit of a slower reading month, and also there were 2 DNFs this month. So I also read an ALC, which was Hemlock Silver by T. Kingfisher. I had a couple of audiobook reads. I read 1 book on my Kindle, and yeah, we're going to discuss all of those, but just to let you know that those are pretty much the stats such as they are. Okay, so let's talk about the DNFs first. As I said, I had 2 this month. The first one was the Buffalo Hunter. That one was an audiobook loan on Libby, and I don't know, I just couldn't really get into the story. I had trouble following who, you know, the time periods, what was happening, because I think the Buffalo Hunter is a story within a story within a story, and that became just too multi-leveled for me. And honestly, whenever I put it on and was trying to listen to the story, I ended up nodding off, falling asleep. I found the narration very boring. Maybe if I had the physical copy of the book, it would be a different experience, but on audio, it just wasn't working for me. I didn't really make it that far in, so I couldn't tell you if it was a good story or not. It was just something that didn't ultimately hook my attention, and because of it, I just decided to sort of let it go. If I ever come across the book at a thrift store or somebody hands me a copy, maybe I'll read it. I'm not really likely to go taking it out from the library either. So yeah, I don't know. For whatever reason, it didn't work for me, and I know that a lot of people really loved it, and a lot of people have read The Only Good Indians. And again, these were books that have been on my radar, so I'm low-key kind of sad about it. But anyway, I think that, as usual, when I DNF a book, it's just because I'm not really feeling it at the time. And I didn't get far enough into it to actually tell you that it was a problem with the writing or a problem with the pacing or anything like that. I just put it on. It was an audio listen. I kept falling asleep. I didn't know what was happening. I had to re-listen to the first chapter, I think 3 times, just to try and suss out what was going on. And it just wasn't working for me. So that was a DNF. And the second book that I DNF'd, I actually have a copy of it right here, is Assistant to the Villain. Okay, so this one was just a mess. I don't know. I made it 34 pages of the way into it, and I was annoyed with the writing, and it was trying very, very hard to be cheeky, and it just read to me as something extremely messy. Now, I know that this is the first in a series. I think there are already 2 other books published in this collection, and they seem to be doing really, really well. So obviously, this series has an audience. I'm just not sure that I am the right one. I couldn't connect with the characters or the story. I kept feeling like a lot of this was just stinky cheese, and as a result, it's just not working for me. So Assistant to the Villain, very sadly, I had to DNF. I really wanted to like it, especially since I spent money on it. I'm just really glad that in this case I didn't go ahead and buy the sequel and the one after that without having read the first one, because that's something that I have done and then regretted spending the money on the second and third in the series if I like try and buy them before I read the first one. So I'm trying not to do that too much in the latter half of 2025 and also going forward. But yeah, this one just didn't work for me. So yeah, it was a DNF. The next book that I want to talk to you guys about is Wild Dark Shore. I don't have a copy of it. I borrowed this book from the library. I'll just put up a copy here so you guys can see the cover. I had a really, really good time with this one. This one was a 5-star read for me. I absolutely loved it, so much so that when I was watching other YouTubers talking about their reactions to the book and having read it and stuff, and I found that their opinions kind of differed from my own, I actually went ahead and recorded a sort of video essay in defense of the novel, which you guys can go check out. I'll leave a link either up here in an info card or down below in the description. If you guys want to go and check out that Wild Dark Shore video essay that I recorded, I would highly recommend that you get into it, but just note that there are spoilers. Basically, it is a story about love, hope, survival, telling yourself truths, how people lie to themselves, relationships, you know, all that stuff. I won't get into it too much. If you guys want to know more about that, please go check out my other video. And like I said, there might be spoilers, but it's not going to be, I tried to make it not too spoilery, but essentially this book was just just like a packet of vibes. It was an emotional sort of roller coaster. It really, really took me for a ride, and I always felt like I was just riding the waves all the time. So I had a really good time with it. Please don't go into it expecting that it's a mystery thriller. I know it's been sort of promoted that way. I think that was my major pet peeve about the promotion of this book, because people seem to think it's supposed to be a mystery thriller and it's really not. So if you're going into it expecting a plot-centric novel, then it's going to really disappoint you. If you want more of a character study and if you want to be sort of lyrically taken on a journey, then I think that you're really going to like it. So that's all I'm going to say about that, because I did reserve a little more content about this book in another video. So I just want to let you know that for me it was, if it's your first time at this channel, for me it was an absolute 5-star read, and I highly recommend that everybody go and check that one out. Next, I read A Mirror Mended. This was also a library read. It is the second in a series by Alex E. Harrow. I think the first one is a spindle, something, I can't remember. I'll write the name across the screen, but it is a short novella, sapphic elements, fairy tale retelling. You really can't go wrong. There's nothing more to say about that. Basically, it has to do with the evil stepmother or the wicked queen of Snow White, and and what her story is, which I thought was a really interesting take on a fairy tale retelling, because very often you will see Snow White as the heroine, whereas in this novella, Snow White is kind of the baddie and the evil queen is kind of the one that you're rooting for. So that was a nice sort of way to flip a tale on its head, and I really enjoyed it. Plus, the book had beautiful illustrations as well. So if you guys can get a copy of the book, I think you'll have a good time. If you like a fairy tale retelling, you really can't go wrong. Next, I read the first installment in the Thursday Murder Club series. I do have 2 more from this series that I purchased actually prior to reading this one, but I was very convinced that I was going to like this one because it's sort of a linear, funny murder mystery that takes place at an old age retirement home. And I think possibly everybody on BookTube probably knows about this, and the fact that it's becoming a book-to-screen adaptation, or perhaps it already has come out already on Netflix. I'm not really sure. I don't subscribe to Netflix, so I don't know when I will get around to watching the screen adaptation of this, but I definitely want to, because the cast is fantastic. And yeah, and the book was really great as well. I had a lot of chuckles. It was really fun. It was a good light time. Since I'm not a rom-com reader or a romance reader in general, I don't really have beach reads or popcorn reads type of thing on my physical TBR, or even on my like digital or whatever eventually to read TBR. It's not something that I would generally put there unless I hear exceptional things about it. There's always exceptions to every rule, but this was a very light, funny murder mystery, very much like Benjamin Stevenson, who wrote Everyone in My Family Has Killed Someone. It gave me the same kind of vibes. It was just a lot of fun, and I will definitely be reading the next 2 that follow it, and I'll be keeping my eye out for, I think there's 5 books out, or the 4th one is out. The 4th one is definitely out. I don't know if the 5th one has been published yet, but I will definitely be sticking with this series. But again, even if I do stick with this series, I probably will end up unhauling them eventually, because as it is with murder mysteries, once you know who the murderer is, you're not very likely to return to it. So either I'm going to decide to collect them because they look pretty on my bookshelf, or, you know, I may eventually unload them. I don't know. But for now, I'm going to keep them because I do have 3 in the series, and a little bit later, we're going to potentially get into like a bookshelves type of reorganization project. Like, I'll talk to you more about that at the end of the video, so stick around if you want to hear more about that. But yeah, I want to make things look pretty. So I love this one. I think I gave it 4 stars, 4.5, something along those lines, but definitely absolutely worth the read. If you haven't read it yet, definitely pick it up. Next, I finally made it to book 2 of the Bloodsworn saga. This is Hunger of the Gods by John Gwynne. I did annotate this book because I read it a little more slowly. I wanted to sort of make my way through it, but honestly, I was underwhelmed. I don't know why. I think that I'm kind of losing my luster for John Gwynne a little bit. I think that I had heard like so much hype about his writing and hype about this series that when I read the first one, I maybe told myself that I liked it a lot more than I actually did. And while I find the concept of like epic fantasy saga featuring sort of Viking type setting, that is definitely really attractive to me. I just don't know if John Gwynne's writing is as gripping for me as everybody seems to say that it is. Like, there's something, I feel kind of like I don't know, a standoffishness or some sort of a distance, like I can't really connect emotionally with his writing, and I'm not really sure exactly why that is. It's very plot driven, and it's very much a continuing story of the first book, and certainly would lead you into the conclusive volume. So you do, and they do end on cliffhangers, so you definitely want to be reading the next one, and it is intentionally written in a 3-story arc, which is always something that I like. But I feel like, I don't know, I rated the first one 5 stars, but if I had to think about it and re-rate it now, I probably would rate it a little bit lower. And then this one I only ended up giving 3 stars to because, I don't know, even though there's more point of view characters, and yes, there were some jokes that were kind of funny, I felt like either I wasn't in the right mood when I picked it up, or the author was trying too hard, or it could be a combination of both. I don't know. I do love the cover art, and again, I'm enjoying the story, but is it a 5-star read for me? No, obviously not. Is it a 5-star series for me? Probably not. It's really gonna depend on how the last book kind of wraps up the saga. So I'll have to get back to you guys on this one, but it's almost a case of when, there's a truck backing up. I don't know if you guys can hear that, probably on camera. There's like something beeping outside, but they only do that, by the way, when I'm trying to do, when I'm trying to film a video. That's when, like, outside, all the noises come. It's like they know I'm trying to film. But yeah, I really wish that I loved this book as much as other people say that they love this book, or more accurately, I really wish I loved this book as much as I love the cover art for this book. So I will continue the series, but I was kind of like middling about it. And I think that that probably had a lot to do with the fact that I was feeling a lot of self-imposed pressure to continue with the series. And maybe I read it when I wasn't really mentally or emotionally available for it. So I don't really know how much is me and how much is the book's fault. So I hope that that makes sense. It was just kind of lukewarm for me. Following that, I read my first of 2 T. Kingfisher books this month. Actually, you guys, that was accidental, okay? I had an audio copy of The Twisted Ones, and that's kind of a gothic horror type novel where it actually takes place in the American South, I want to say. I don't know if it's actually in the South, but I know it takes place in the US. So the protagonist is like a 29 or 30-year-old single woman who inherits her grandmother's estate, and her grandmother kind of has like a hoarder house, except there's no cats, so there's no like cat poop or anything like that that's in the house that she has to deal with. But eventually, because her father is ill and in hospital and can't really deal with whatever she has to do to clean up the house to get it ready for resale, she actually has to go and live in the house, and that's when the strange sort of things start happening. And yeah, I mean, I don't want to say too much more about that because you really need to be in the novel. If I talk about it too much more, it'll kind of ruin the effects. It is a gothic, like I said, horror novel. The narrator, because I listened to this, I can't remember if I mentioned it or not before, but I listened to it on audio. The narrator for this story was fantastic. Like, she was absolutely on point. I highly suggest you guys check out the audio version of this if you can. I had a great time with it. Still, it was a lower rated T. Kingfisher for me. Again, not all of her books are 5-star books for me, as we will see later when we talk about Hemlock and Silver, but she is a 5-star author for me. So, you know, we don't hit on like exactly every single one, but I think that for The Twisted Ones, I want to say I gave it a 3.5-star rating, just because I think that horror in general, I think, at least for me now, I've been having a little bit of trouble sort of connecting with the genre, and we'll touch upon that a little later when I talk to you about the Christina Henry book that I read. But horror, I don't know, I feel like it doesn't grip me the way that it used to when I was much, much younger. And I think I've mentioned that before on the channel, but in any case, The Twisted Ones, well worth your time as well, especially if you like T. Kingfisher and you like a sort of spooky time. But I would suggest the audio, because the narrator was just fantastic on that and really made it, gave it that atmosphere, because she just read everything so well. Like the little, what I imagine in the printed book would be like italicized, she just read that with a lot of feeling, and she would change her like voice and cadence and things like that. So it was not a monotonous narrator, which really can make or break the difference of a successful audiobook, at least for me. Then I actually finished a book that I had on my Kindle, which, you know, usually takes me a longer time since e-reading is not my preferred way of reading a book, but I read a really, really fun, indie published sci-fi comedy, silly concoction. I don't know what else to call it. And it's called Scharlette Doesn't Matter and Goes Time Traveling. And it is pretty much exactly what the cover looks like. It is a wild ride. It is a, you know, our heroine is working as a border security agent for the Sydney airport. Actually, not border security. She does TSA. Oh my God. Is that the recycling truck? That I'm going to be able to hear, so I'm going to have to restart.
One eternity later.
Hey you guys, so I just had to stop the recording for a second because the organic waste truck just drove by and it was super screechy and super loud. So I don't know where I was. I think I was talking to you guys about Scharlette. Yes, Scharlette Doesn't Matter and Goes Time Traveling. Okay, so Scharlette Day is her name, and this is the first in a trilogy, and I will definitely be buying the other 2 that go with this. I actually don't have a, oh my God, doorbell just rang. I'm trying to record here. So the doorbell just rang, you guys. Thank you, Servant Eric, for going to get the product. the package. We may have a book outlet box here. You guys want to see this? Maybe I'll show it to you at the end of the video. Why not? Because it just arrived today, so it's serendipitous. We can do that. We'll leave like a portion at the end of the video and we'll open the box together. Okay, let's talk about Scharlette. Okay, so Scharlette works as a security agent at the Sydney airport. She's the one that scans you through, that makes you take out your cell phone and everything. You gotta walk through, and she does like the whole bar scanning thing that she does. And basically, she has this sort of monotonous, boring life, a really annoying boss. And then one day this guy comes through and he's got this like mechanism on his wrist, and she says, you know, you're gonna have to take it off because I can't let you through the security and while you have like a metal sort of bracelet on you. So it's kind of like an ankle monitor type of device, right? But it's on this guy's wrist. And so in order to comply, because the guy looks a little flustered and he's in a rush and he sort of has to get through and make his flight or wherever he's trying to go, he does take it off. He puts it in the little box. It goes through, and then the guy, I don't know, things happen. The guy disappears, and Scharlette is left with this bracelet, and for whatever reason she puts it on, and then she can't get it off. She doesn't know how to get it off. She doesn't know how to find the guy, and shenanigans ensue, basically. So what happens is that she eventually gets swept up on this sort of time travel saga. She finds out exactly why she doesn't matter, which I'm not going to ruin for you, but essentially it's just a story that is full of ridiculousness, language puns. It's Monty Python-esque in its silliness, and it is from an indie author who is Australian, I believe, and just like a really, really good time. This is also a book where the time travel element makes sense. All of the rules that the author has created or invented for this world of his all make sense. And that's something that really appeals to me as a reader. I don't like, and I guess that's maybe why I have trouble with horror books so much, because in horror books, as opposed to sci-fi or fantasy, when you're building a world, in horror books, you don't need to necessarily have to have an explanation for where your evil elements or fantastical elements are coming from. You just have to sort of take them as a given that they're there. Whereas with time travel, with fantasy or sci-fi, if you're going to be introducing these types of elements and the author doesn't explain as part of their world building the logic behind these magical elements like time travel or fantasy world building and magic and stuff like that, that sort of loses me. And I don't know if I'm making sense, but like the fact that horror novels don't have this explanation, whereas sci-fi and fantasy does, kind of leads me more towards sci-fi fantasy novels in general, because I'm the type of person that needs to have an explanation, because the author needs to prove to me that they know what the hell they're doing. And the reason I say that is because when I read Cuckoo, I felt like the author had no idea what she was doing. And that came across to me on the page, because like her big monster, she couldn't even consistently describe it. So that was problematic for me. Anyway. Moving on, we have Hemlock Silver, which is the second T. Kingfisher book that I read this month. And this one was actually accidental, because I had put in a request for an advanced listener copy on NetGalley, and I was approved. And because I was on vacation and wanted something to listen to while I was on the plane, I downloaded it, and then it just ended up being something that I listened to this month. But it really wasn't part of the plan to read 2 books from the same author in a month. So I'm sorry if that is annoying to some of you, but I know I have some people watching these videos that are big T. Kingfisher fans and, you know, really don't mind that I read so much of her. But yeah, Hemlock Silver, again, not a 5-star read for me. It didn't really do it for me the same way that Sword Heart did it for me, or that Paladin's Grace did it for me. And it wasn't because it wasn't a lovely romance. There is a small romance in that book, but I just feel like I had a little trouble with the mirror magic and the mirror logic, but in true T. Kingfisher fashion, it really did deliver. You had some older protagonists, you had some really funny scenes that are very, very heartfelt, very warm, but also in a way gothic. So, you know, here you have a story which is also, as it happens, a Snow White retelling, which makes me think that I actually have read not only 2 T. Kingfisher books this month, but 2 Snow White retellings this month, which was not intentional. Like, that's really not something that I realized until just now, because I read a Mirror Mended way in the beginning of the month, right? So basically you have a healer by the name of Anya, whose father has previously done work for the king in their realm, and the king has had to murder his wife for having murdered their daughter. And he comes to Anya asking for help, because Anya happens to be an expert, a sort of like, I don't want to say an armchair expert, but she's not an academic, not like a certified doctor or anything like that. She just happens to be an expert in poisons. And we're going to use the terms poisons and venoms interchangeably in this scenario, because Anya kind of does both and works with both, so we're not going to get pedantic about it, but basically the king has come to her under a mission of the utmost secrecy to sort of get her to go back with him to his palace or wherever Snow White is being held and sort of figure out what is going on with her and why she seems to be wasting away. And basically he thinks that Snow is being poisoned, and he would like Anya to sort of suss out the source of her wasting sickness that she has and figure out who in the palace may have something against him and why, etc., etc. So Anya, feeling cornered because the king himself has come to ask for her aid, is kind of like, well, I'm not really qualified. She tries to deflect, right? In true T. Kingfisher style, she tries to deflect. I'm not really the right person. Maybe, you know, but she doesn't want to tell the king, maybe you need to be looking for somebody else. So she kind of has that awkwardness of like not wanting to say the wrong thing to the king. But because she's so stalwart and honest and direct, and all of the things that would sort of alienate her from peers and social relationships and things like that, the king kind of takes like a liking to her and likes her blunt way of speaking. So, you know, what you come to expect from a T. Kingfisher book, you kind of get. It's all very lighthearted, even if it is very gothic in nature. So there's a really, really nice blend. She also has a couple of sidekicks because on her way to the palace, the king has assigned her a couple of bodyguards, one of which is Javier, who eventually becomes a love interest for her. And basically, the reason for the bodyguard is because if somebody gets wind of the fact that she's there to sort of help heal Snow White, then by virtue of the fact that she's aiding the king, her life itself could be in danger. Anya's, that is. So anyway, it's a really, really good retelling, but for me, again, it didn't quite hit that 4.5 or 5 star mark. It felt kind of flat for me in a couple. I would have liked to see maybe about 50 or so more pages that was dedicated to the relationship. I feel like the relationship aspect of like romantasy that T. Kingfisher did so well in Paladin's Grace and even in Swordheart kind of like was missing for me in Hemlock and Silver, but that's just a personal preference. The book itself was solid, so that for me was a 3.5 or 4 star. Highly recommend you guys listen to the audio of that one as well. I don't know if I will buy a copy of that for my physical TBR, such as I have with Swordheart, because I did love Swordheart so much after having listened to it on audio. And Paladin's Grace, same thing happened. I listened to it on audio. I immediately bought the 4 books in that series, including Paladin's Grace, which I had just listened to, as you guys have seen on this channel before. But I don't know if I'll buy a copy of Hemlock and Silver. Like, there's some T. Kingfisher books that I buy and some that I read or borrow from either NetGalley or the libraries. So anyway, it still was really good, and I'm really, really glad that the publishers approved my request. And I want to give a special mention to the narrator of the advanced listener copy or the audio version of Hemlock and Silver, because she did, oh my God, such a fantastic job. I've been really, really lucky with my narrators this month in the audiobooks that I've read, because this narrator was funny, she was on point, she changed her voice, she made jokes, she's really good at the characters, at relating the characters' inner monologue, which we all know and love from T. Kingfisher. So just based on the narrator alone, I would suggest that you listen to a copy of this book and then maybe go buy it if you're so inclined. Next, we're going to talk about The Girl in Red, which is my first experience in the world of Christina Henry. I've never read her books before. This one also is a retelling. Can you see a theme? There was a lot of fairy tale retellings this month. I'm not going to talk to you too much about this one because I do have plans for it in a future upcoming vlog. I don't know if you guys have seen the video that I made where I talk about a new series that I'm going to start that has to do with cover art, and I talked to you guys about having reviewing books that have certain elements on the cover, like a stag or a wolf or a fish or a boat or something along those lines, because I'm trying to sort of get through my physical TBR. This one happens to have obviously a wolf on the cover, so I did read this book in anticipation of a future vlog, but I will tell you in this one that it is a fairy tale retelling of Little Red Riding Hood, just to give you a bit of a tease if you like a plot-centered, but also it's got a good balance between plot and character development. If you want to know more about this Red Riding Hood, I will tell you that she is a biracial, physically disabled, queer heroine in about, she's about 20 years old. So if that ticks off some boxes for you, then it's something you might want to pick up. It is a revenge story. It is an adventure story, but it's also a horror a little bit. It can be a little gory in a few places. So if that sounds interesting to you and you like a fairy tale retelling, then I would say pick this one up. But again, I'm not going to get too much into my feels about it because I'm reserving that for a later vlog. I also wanted to show you guys these 2 books. These will be the last 2 that I read this month. They didn't make it onto my script because I guess I forgot that I read them. So before we do the outro and the little book unboxing, I'm just going to mention these 2. This Time Tomorrow by Emma Straub is a science fiction time travel book that I own a copy of, but did listen to on audio as well. This novel takes place chiefly between our now times and the 1990s, because this heroine was born in 1980 and would have graduated in 1998. So there's going to be a lot of like mid-90s references for like bands, pop culture, things like that in this book, as she's sort of figuring out what, you know, how she's able to time travel, and what benefits or disasters that could pose for her in her storyline. I like this one. I think I gave it 3.5 stars. I did do a vlog where I talked about this a little bit more, which I can leave for you in the description, or potentially also in an info card if I can figure out how to get that to work in my videos. I'm trying to learn more about YouTube, you guys, so I can make better videos for you guys. But yeah, this is a sci-fi time travel novel, and it did it really well. No mathematics were involved. It was just being in one place and then being in another place and trying to figure out which of those life paths are really truly better. So it brings up those kinds of questions if that's something you're interested in, but it's not a heavy philosophical book. It's pretty light and very nostalgic if you're in the right age range. And then lastly, I read Walk the Vanished Earth. This is something that you guys will have just seen a video on, so I won't spend too much time talking about it here, but I did complete it in the month of July, so I just wanted to give it a little bit of a shout out. Again, this is a sci-fi, and we are looking at the world as it has been basically drowned in water, and we are seeing how humanity, at what lengths humanity will go to preserve their connection to the earth. So again, if you guys want to check out that other video, I will leave a link for you guys to be able to get more of my thoughts on this book, because I don't want to repeat it because I know that people have watched that video and I don't want to bore you guys. Okay, I was going to talk to you guys about the books I'm currently reading. Okay, so I've got 3 right now. I started Natasha Pulley's The Kingdoms on my vacation. I don't know, I think I'm kind of soft DNFing this one. The reason I'm laughing is because I don't think I've ever truly soft DNF'd a book before, but I can't really get into it. It's nothing wrong with the novel. I just don't think I'm feeling it right now. So I think that this one will end up going into a to be read or to be continued later. I did need a book for my vacation. I made it 122 pages in. It's not a bad book. I just couldn't really get into the writing. So I think I just need to be in a more rested state when the more complicated, it's prose that's a little more complicated than I'm used to. And I think that that's the reason that I'm having trouble kind of keeping things together with it. But this again is also a sci-fi. It's also a time travel story. So I don't know. I want to finish it, but I don't think I'm going to finish it this month because we did just do an August TBR jar and I want to prioritize those reads. If I still have time left over at the end of the month, I may come back to this one, but I'm not sure. This may end up in the pile of shame and we may have to revisit this in January of next year or whenever my TBR jar prompts tell me to pick something from my pile of shame. I don't know. Okay, so this one is going on the back burner for now. Next, I am reading the very extinct Voyage of the Shadow Moon by Sean McMullen. The reason I say it's extinct is because I remember, maybe you guys remember too, if you guys were reading fantasy books way back in the 90s, that I used to walk the shelves of Indigo, which in Canada at that time was Chapters, and I used to see this book. This is the mass market paperback version, which of course the cover is stunning, and I used to think, oh my god, that reminds me it's Giving Live Ship. I'm going to pick up that book one day and read that book one day, and then the one day arrived. The one day arrived. I didn't pick this up at the bookstore. I found it actually at a thrift store and it cost $2.25. And it was in such great condition. Like you can see there's not even a, I don't know if it'll come into focus, but there are no like bends or anything, no cracks in the spine, nothing. Somebody had just given this away almost as if they never read it. And I remember saying to myself over and over every time I would peruse the shelves in the bookstore, I gotta pick this book up one day. And 20 years later, I finally picked it up. So it's actually really, really good so far. I am 102 pages in. It's a bit of a slower read for me because it's one of those books that I have on my nightstand that I'll only pick up, you know, whenever I'm trying to read before I go to bed or I just need a change of scenery. But this is a fantasy book, epic fantasy. I think there are 5 books out. This is the first in the series. And Sean McMullen is an Australian author who is not being published. I don't know if he's being published continuously or still in Australia, or continually, I should say, in Australia, but I haven't seen his books here. No one talks about them on BookTube that I have seen. If you guys know of anyone that has read this, or if you have read this, please let me know in the comments because I kind of feel like I'm the only one. But basically, it is book 1 of the Moon World saga. And you have a ship called the Shadow Moon who can actually disappear under the water because they have hatches in the hull in the bottom, and it can take on water and it can willingly sink. And then after, they have a process of bringing it back up to the surface. And what happens is that this emperor, in a quest for world domination, kind of finds this mysterious magical suit and puts the suit on, and the suit itself, it's called Silver Death, is a weapon of mass destruction and kind of when it's employed or deployed, however you want to describe it, it basically razes entire towns, villages, cities even. It razes them in the sense that everything kind of goes up in smoke and flame, and it's complete and total utter destruction, boils the fish that are in the bodies of water, burns the stone down to nothing, just absolutely disastrous consequences when somebody who's wearing the Silver Death suit sort of, because the suit takes over the anima of the person wearing it and then becomes the controlling entity and is just using the person's body who is wearing the suit, if that makes sense. And so he's able to like destroy whole villages, towns, cities even, and the destruction grows twice as large and twice as wide in half the time. So it's very interesting. It's a very unique concept, and we're following the crew of the Shadow Moon as they are fleeing one of the cities that has just been destroyed by this magic. And that's pretty much all I know so far. So one of the members of the crew is a 700-year-old vampire who is stuck in the body of a 14-year-old boy. So he goes around wearing like a beard that he sticks on to try and look older and stuff. And it's also kind of a funny book. Like the author is funny in certain places, which actually adds to the charm of it. And the female characters that we run into are very intelligent and seem to have a very prominent place in the book. But again, I'm only 100 pages in, so I really couldn't tell you more about the book than that, aside from the fact that I'm having a good time, and if I can get through the August TBR jar picks, I will definitely be wanting to spend a little more time in this one. And then lastly, I did actually start The Husband's Secret, which is one of the August TBR jar picks. I just started it this morning, so I'm only about 40 pages in right now, but I like it. You know, Liane Moriarty is an author kind of like Jodi Picoult, who I didn't really think was necessarily for me, since I'm somebody that doesn't read a lot of contemporary lit fic, but I did read Here One Moment, and I really enjoyed her writing. And you know what? She's doing a good job with this one too. I'm liking it so far. I'm excited to find out what the secret is. I kind of feel like I know what it might be, but I'll have to get back to you guys on that one a little bit later. So I just wanted to let you know that I started it. But yeah, if you haven't tried Liane Moriarty, I suggest you do, because it's she just has such an engaging way of writing, and the prose is just, again, if you like Jodi Picoult, you'll probably like her, and vice versa. And she also, bizarrely, I'm reading a lot of Australian authors. She's also an Australian author, so good times. Okay, let us get into the book box. We just got a book box delivered in the middle of filming, and yeah, we're just gonna take advantage of the situation. And let's open it. Ugh, I'm gonna knock myself in the boob. You know that, right? Like by this box. It's a good thing that my camera is set up the way it is, because all right, there's not too many books, so let's show you what they are, okay? The first one in this box is The Gin Waits 100 Years. I think I just picked it up because I like the cover and the fact that it was a gin story. So yeah, I won't spend too much time. I'll just show you what these books are, you know, and that's it. I've got The Lies of the Ajungo. I've got The Lies of the Ajungo. This is a novella. It's really small. I don't know why I bought this one. I must have thought that it was longer, or maybe it was on sale. I think this was on the discount aisle. It was like $4.99 or something, but had some very good reviews. It's actually, this is a good one to read potentially because it's 87 pages. So if ever I'm in a reading slump, you know what I'm going to gravitate towards, because whenever I need an easy win, what did we discuss in a previous video? Short stories or novellas. So this one will definitely be read sooner than later. Okay, I picked up another fairy tale retelling, this time from Gregory Maguire, who is the author of The Wicked Years, which is his like Wizard of Oz fairy tale retelling stories, and of course Wicked, everyone knows Wicked. So this is another book that he's written. This is called After Alice, retelling of Alice in Wonderland. Then I have The Keeper of Lost Things, which to me was a cover buy, but I'll tell you what this one is about. We have airplanes. I know you can hear them because I see the mic picking up the sound of the airplanes. Okay. All right, Keeper of Lost Things. Anthony Perdue is the keeper of lost things, once a celebrated author of short stories, now in his twilight years. Anthony has sought consolation from the long-ago loss of his fiancée by lovingly rescuing lost objects, the things others have dropped, misplaced, or accidentally left behind. Realizing that he's running out of time, he leaves his beautiful house and all the collected treasures to his unsuspecting assistant, Laura, the one person he trusts to fulfill his legacy. Recovering from a bad divorce, Laura is in some ways one of Anthony's lost things, but when she moves into his lovely old Victorian mansion, her life suddenly begins to change. Anthony's final wishes set in motion a most serendipitous series of encounters as Laura sets out to realize Anthony's last wish, reuniting his cherished lost objects with their owners. With an unforgettable cast of characters that includes a teenage girl with special powers, a handsome gardener, a fuzzy ghost, and an array of irresistible four-legged friends, The Keeper of Lost Things is a heartwarming read about second chances, endless possibilities, and joyful discoveries. So I think this one has the potential to be light, but cozy, but fantastical, so there's definitely going to be some room for this in my upcoming reads. Probably going to end up being a priority read. Or maybe we'll pull out a prompt that wants me to read a book with flowers on the cover. I don't know. But anyway, it sounded good to me, so I picked that one up. We have The Unraveling by Benjamin Rosenbaum. In a society where biotechnology has revolutionized gender, young Fift must decide whether to conform or carve a new path. In the distant future, somewhere in the galaxy, a world has evolved where each person has multiple bodies, cybernetics has abolished privacy, and individual and family success are reliant upon instantaneous evaluations of how well each member conforms to the rigid social system. Young Fift is an only child of the state gender, struggling to maintain their position in the system while developing a friendship with the acclaimed bioengineer Shreya, a controversial and intriguing friendship since Shreya is veil-gendered. Soon Fift and Shreya unintentionally wind up at the center of a scandalous art spectacle, which turns into a multi-layered unraveling of society. Fift is torn between their attraction to Shreya and the safety of their family, between staying true to their feelings and social compliance. When their personal crises suddenly take on a global significance, what's a young state to do when the whole world is watching? So this is sort of a gender-bending queer sci-fi, I want to say outer space. I don't know. There's some, I'm just like flipping through it right now and I can see that there are there's some different formatting. I can't really, I lost all the pages with the different formatting. Maybe we're getting like, like that in the novel. Yeah, so I think it could be really interesting. It's definitely a sci-fi. As you know, I'm trying to get more into sci-fi, trying to really find the books that work for me and the books that don't. So this sounded interesting and yeah, just picked it up. The cover was kind of cool too. I got another sci-fi, I don't know if it's really a sci-fi, it's more like a physics-based love story. It's called A Quantum Love Story, and that is by Mike Chen. Grieving her best friend's recent death, neuroscientist Mariana Pineda is ready to give up everything to start anew, even her career, after one last week consulting at a top-secret particle accelerator. Except the strangest thing happens. A man stops her and claims they've met before. Carter Cho knows who she is, why she's mourning, why she's there, and he needs Mariana to remember everything he's saying, because time is about to loop. Oh, so it is a sci-fi then. Okay, I thought it was a sci-fi. Okay, in a flash of energy, it's Monday morning again. Together, Mariana and Carter enter an inevitable life, 4 days at a time, over and over, without permanence except for what they share. With everything resetting, even bank accounts, joy comes in the little moments. A delicious and expansive meal, the purr of a tiny cat, a tennis match, giving a dog his favorite treat. In some ways, those are all that matter. But just as they figure out this new life, everything changes, because Carter's memories of the time loop are slowly disappearing, and their only chance at happiness is breaking out of the loop forever. So we do have a sci-fi cosmic time travel love story potentially here. I could get behind that. I don't think it's giving romance vibes, but it's definitely going to be a love story from what I can gather. So I think I might possibly really like this one. It's going to depend. I don't know anything about it, never heard anyone talking about it. If you've read it, let me know if you think I'm going to like it. Then we got You Feel It Just Below the Ribs. A manuscript containing the life story of Dr. Miriam Gregory is discovered under the floorboards of an attic room in Stockholm. It speaks of growing up during the Great Reckoning, a sprawling decades-long war that nearly decimates humanity and strips her of friends and family. Devastated by grief and loneliness, she emotionally exiles herself, avoiding relationships or allegiances, and throws herself into her work. Disengagement that serves her well when the war finally ends and the new society arises in its wake. To ensure lasting peace, the new society forbids anything that may cause tribal loyalties, including traditional families. Suddenly, everyone must live as Miriam has chosen to, disconnected and unattached. A prominent psychologist and researcher at heart, Miriam becomes involved in implementing this detachment process. Her understanding of how to examine and manipulate the human mind becomes the basis of a program that will transform this new world and the lives of everyone in it. But the bold claims the manuscript makes cannot be corroborated, raising disturbing questions about their very authenticity. Is this autobiography a sincere confession, or is it a fabrication set against the backdrop of reality? How many times can you filter a memory before it's really just a fiction, Miriam herself asks. It's left to you, the reader, to judge. So could it be sci-fi? Could it be speculative? I'm thinking it's a mix of all those things. The cover is pretty neat. Yeah, I'm thinking it could be an interesting, atmospheric, very vibey time. And then lastly in this box, I picked up a copy of Chain Gang All-Stars. I think I mentioned this to you in a couple of videos ago. This was one that I got out of the library, which I absolutely loved. I absolutely loved. This one is kind of a sci-fi. Yeah, I would say that it's a sci-fi lit fix sort of genre blend. If you guys haven't heard of it, basically it is about a sort of modern day reality TV gladiator style private prison system, if that can give you an idea of what might be going on. These prisoners are given a chance to shorten their prison sentences by opting to fight in an arena, except the fight is a fight to the death, but the prison systems are so bleak. This novel basically showcases how humanity is hungry to see the downfall of others, even to the point where we are looking at other people's suffering as a form of entertainment and, you know, career building and things like that. Like, we have a couple of point of view characters. We follow some of the prisoners. We follow some of the audience members that are watching the televised production of this program. And we are also watching the chief host or commentator of this program and how his life is affected by the things he has to report upon. He's kind of like the Ryan Seacrest sort of MC type character. And yeah, it is just a wild ride. And the reason that I picked this up despite having read it already is because this is one of the few books that I've read lately that I would absolutely reread. In fact, I want to reread it, and I definitely wanted to have a copy of this on my shelf. So last thing I want to talk to you guys about before I sign off this video is a little bit of a project that I'm working on for you. I would like to try and create a better background scenario. So we're going to be doing a little bit of reorganizing of the living room, and I'm going to be taking some stuff out and moving some stuff around. So that should be a video that you guys, if you don't subscribe to the channel and you want to see that whole process, please go hit that subscribe button right now and the notification bell so that you guys can get notified when I post that video up, because I do want to eventually be sitting against a background of my carefully curated library. And if you guys have seen the apartment a little bit, if you've been here a while, you probably caught some angles of the apartment. I don't really have a big, wide library bookshelf, which is why we do most of the reading wrap-ups and monthly wrap-ups in front of the sofa here. But I'm low-key jealous of everyone who does. So I am going to be working with Eric to redo the bookshelves that are just over to my right, and that's going to be something to look forward to coming up. And then we'll have like a nicer bookish background for you all, which I think should really help with, you know, the thumbnail clicks and things like that. So we will have sort of a permanent setup here, and I think that is going to bring us to the end of the video. Thank you so much if you've stuck with me this long. You know, if you've made it to the end of the video, you're absolutely my favorite. Please like this video and leave a comment if you would like to share something with me, and if you just want to let me know that you're here but you don't have anything in specific that you would like to say, please leave me a little stag emoji or a deer emoji in honor of Walk the Vanished Earth, and I will see you guys again in the next video. Ciao for now.